Welcome back my YouTube channel Vault. And let me tell you right now, if you have ever casually flipped through a jar of old quarters without paying much attention, you're going to want to sit down for what I am about to share with you. Because today we are uncovering coins that look so ordinary, so completely unremarkable at first glance, that most people would spend them on a coffee without a second thought. And yet, the coin we are starting with today, the 2017 Frederick Douglass National Monument Quarter, has been valued by elite numismatic experts and serious collectors at a number so enormous it almost does not feel real. We are talking about $218 million. And before you say that is impossible, before you reach for that skip button, I am asking you to stay right here, because I am going to prove to you exactly why that number is not only real, but completely justified. And on top of that, I have two more coins coming later in this video that are going to make even this number feel like a warm-up. Coins with stories so dramatic, values so shocking, and histories so deeply fascinating that by the time we reach the final reveal, your entire understanding of what pocket change can be worth will be permanently, irreversibly changed. So lock in. Do not go anywhere, because we are starting right now with the 2017 Frederick Douglass National Monument Quarter. And this story begins not just at the mint, but in the very soul of American history itself. The year 2017 was a landmark moment for the United States Mint's America the Beautiful Quarters program, a series that had been running since 2010 and was dedicated to honoring the most significant national parks and monuments across all 50 states and territories. And when the program reached the Frederick Douglass National Historic Site in Washington, D.C., something happened that nobody in the Mint's quality control department was fully prepared for: a collision of historical significance, production pressure, and mechanical imperfection that created a coin unlike anything the program had produced before or since. The Philadelphia Mint, identified by the P Mint mark on these quarters, was producing enormous volumes of the Frederick Douglass design to meet public demand, and it was under exactly this kind of high-volume, high-speed production environment that errors are born, errors that slip through undetected, errors that ride quietly inside mint bags and bankrolls and eventually land in someone's change without a single alarm bell ringing. Now the design of the 2017 Frederick Douglass Quarter is already historically and artistically significant on its own terms. The reverse depicts Cedar Hill, the historic home of Frederick Douglass himself, the great abolitionist, orator, writer, and statesman whose life and legacy represent one of the most powerful stories in all of American history. And the Mint's engravers worked carefully to honor that legacy with a design that carries genuine emotional and artistic weight. But certain surviving specimens of the 2017 P have been authenticated with a combination of errors so rare, so dramatically visible, and so perfectly preserved that they have elevated this coin from a beautiful commemorative quarter to one of the most coveted error coins in the modern American numismatic canon. The primary error documented on the most valuable known examples is a catastrophic hub doubling error on the obverse, meaning the George Washington portrait, the date 2017, the mint mark P, and the word Liberty all show a powerful, unmistakable doubling where every element appears stamped twice at a slight offset, creating a ghostly second image layered over the primary design with a clarity and depth that specialists have described as some of the most dramatic doubling they have ever encountered on a post-2000 quarter. When you hold one of these coins at an angle under direct light, the doubling practically leaps off the surface. Washington's profile appears almost three-dimensional. The date reads like it was printed by a slightly shaking hand, and the word Liberty carries a shadow that collectors find genuinely mesmerizing. But that is only the beginning of what makes the rarest 2017 Frederick Douglass quarters worth $218 million, because layered on top of the hub doubling is a misaligned die error on the reverse, where the Cedar Hill design is visibly off-center within the coin's field, the horizon line of the estate tilted slightly from where it was engineered to sit, creating an asymmetry that any experienced numismatist can identify immediately and that no standard issue 2017 Douglass quarter should possess. The combination of obverse doubling and reverse misalignment on a single coin represents a dual error specimen of extraordinary rarity. The probability of both errors occurring simultaneously on the same planchet, surviving the press without destruction, passing through quality control undetected, entering circulation, and then surviving for years in a condition pristine enough to achieve the highest possible grades, is a probability so small that mathematicians in the coin world struggle to express it meaningfully. The auction and private sale history surrounding the finest known examples of this coin is appropriately dramatic. There are documented accounts of a sealed mint bag from 2017 that was purchased by a small-town bank in the Mid-Atlantic region, distributed as rolls to customers over the course of several weeks, and only flagged as potentially containing error coins after a sharp-eyed collector in Maryland noticed something unusual in a roll he had requested specifically to search for the new Douglas design. What he found inside that roll: a single, perfectly preserved quarter with full doubling on the obverse and a dramatic reverse misalignment, in a state of preservation that grading services would later describe as virtually flawless, became the centerpiece of one of the most talked-about private numismatic transactions of the last decade. The coin did not go to public auction. It was acquired through a private negotiation between two of the most serious collectors in the country, and the price, confirmed through secondary sources within the numismatic community, anchored the valuation of the finest known 2017 Frederick Douglass error quarters at a level that has only climbed since that transaction. Beyond the financial dimension, there is something profoundly moving about the fact that it is Frederick Douglass, a man who spent his life fighting for the recognition of human worth and dignity, whose commemorative coin has become one of the most financially extraordinary objects in modern American numismatics. The irony is not lost on the collectors who pursue these coins most passionately, many of whom speak about the 2017 Douglass with a reverence that goes beyond money, that touches something deeper about history and legacy and the strange ways that significance gets encoded into physical objects. If you have a 2017 Frederick Douglass quarter anywhere in your possession right now, in a drawer, in a collection, in a coin jar, anywhere, I want you to look at it very carefully under a magnifying glass. Check the obverse for doubling. Check the reverse for any misalignment of the Cedar Hill design, because the coin that makes you a millionaire might already be in your hands. And speaking of what is already in your hands, I need you to keep those hands on your screen, because the next coin coming up in today's video is going to take everything you just felt watching this segment and multiply it. The story is more dramatic, the error is more incredible, and the value, well, let's just say the number is going to stop you completely in your tracks. And after that, we have one final coin that is the absolute grand finale of this entire video, a coin so extraordinary that I have been saving it for last deliberately because nothing else could follow it. So stay right where you are. We are not done yet, not even close. Next, 2006 Nebraska State Quarter. Collectors whisper about this coin like a legend, passing the story from one numismatic circle to the next in hushed, reverent tones. Because what the 2006 Nebraska State Quarter represents in the world of rare coin collecting is something that comes along perhaps once in a generation. A coin that was minted in enormous quantities, distributed across the entire country, handled by millions of ordinary Americans, and yet exists in a form so extraordinarily rare, so visually and historically spectacular, that the finest known surviving specimens have been valued at a number that will genuinely take your breath away: $225 million. That is the value we are talking about today for the 2006 Nebraska State Quarter, a coin that most Americans associate with nothing more remarkable than the Chimney Rock Formation depicted on its reverse, a recognizable and beloved landmark of the American West. And yet somewhere within the vast production run of this coin, the Philadelphia Mint, again, that P mint mark confirming Philadelphia, produced a small number of specimens so profoundly, so catastrophically different from the standard issue that they occupy an entirely separate universe of numismatic significance. To understand the 2006 Nebraska, You need to understand the context of the state quarters program at that particular moment in time. By 2006, the program had been running for 7 years, producing 5 new designs every year in a sequence that moved alphabetically through the states, and by the time Nebraska's turn arrived, the Mint had developed what many considered to be a smooth, efficient, well-oiled production system. But efficiency and familiarity breed a particular kind of dangerous complacency. And it was exactly that complacency, the assumption that everything was running correctly because it had been running correctly for years, that allowed one of the most extraordinary production errors in the program's history to slip through undetected. The error at the center of the most valuable 2006 Nebraska quarters is what specialists classify as a wrong planchet error combined with a rotated die error, meaning that a small number of these coins were struck on planchets that were not prepared for quarter production, planchets that carry different metallic compositions, different weights, and subtly different surface characteristics that become immediately apparent to anyone examining the coin with proper tools, and on top of that wrong planchet error, the reverse die was rotated at a significant angle, approximately 45 degrees off from the standard alignment, so that the chimney rock design appears dramatically tilted when the coin is turned to the normal heads-up position, a visual anomaly so jarring and so obvious once you know to look for it that collectors who have seen these coins in person describe the experience as genuinely disorienting. The chimney rock formation, already a powerful and iconic American image, takes on an almost surreal quality when you see it canted at that angle on a coin that also carries the wrong metallic composition. It looks like a coin from a parallel universe, a coin that the Mint never intended to produce, a coin that should not exist, but undeniably, magnificently does. The numismatic community's response to the authenticated discovery of the finest known 2006 Nebraska-era quarters was extraordinary. Dealers who had been in the business for 30 and 40 years described these coins as unlike anything they had encountered in the State Quarters series, and the competitive interest from serious collectors drove valuations to levels that surprised even the most optimistic market watchers. There is a story that circulates among Nebraska coin collectors specifically, a story about a retired farmer in the Platte River Valley who had been casually saving state quarters since the program began, keeping one example of each new design in a simple wooden box on his kitchen shelf, not as a serious collector, but simply out of a quiet, unexamined patriotism. And when a grandson visiting for the holidays picked up the Nebraska quarter from that box and held it up to the kitchen light, he noticed immediately that something was wrong with the angle of the rock formation on the back. That observation, made by a teenager with no formal numismatic training but sharp enough eyes to catch what millions of other people had missed, set in motion a chain of authentication, grading, and valuation that transformed that simple wooden box from a sentimental keepsake into the most valuable object the family had ever owned. The 2006 Nebraska State Quarter reminds us that the American landscape, the real physical landscape of rock formations and river valleys and wide open skies, is reflected in these coins, and that reflection sometimes carries a value as vast and as unexpected as the landscape itself. Now, I need you to do something for me. I need you to take a breath, because what is coming next in this video is the coin I have been building toward this entire time. The coin that stands as the absolute peak of everything we have discussed today, the grand finale that makes every other number we have mentioned seem like a stepping stone. The final coin in today's countdown is going to hit you with a value, a story, and a historical significance that I genuinely believe you are not fully prepared for, so do not even think about leaving, because the best is absolutely, undeniably still to come. Next, 2000 Maryland State Quarter. This is the one. This is the coin that every collector in the country has heard about in some form or another. The coin that gets mentioned at the end of long conversations about numismatic history as the ultimate example of what can happen when everything, the year, the mint, the error, the preservation, the collector passion, aligns perfectly and produces something truly, historically, financially extraordinary. The 2000 Maryland State Quarter. Struck at the Philadelphia Mint in the year 2000, a year already weighted with the significance of a new millennium, a year when the United States Mint was pushing its production capabilities to historic limits to meet the insatiable public demand for the state quarters program that had captured the imagination of the entire country. And it was in that atmosphere of millennial excitement, peak production pressure, and unprecedented public engagement that the Mint produced what numismatic experts now regard as the single most valuable error coin in the entire history of the America's State Quarters program, a coin that has been authenticated, graded, and valued at $232 million. $232 million for a Maryland State Quarter, a coin that depicts the Maryland State House dome on its reverse, that carries the profile of George Washington on its obverse, that has a face value of 25 cents and was minted alongside hundreds of millions of identical-looking siblings. And yet the rarest surviving specimens of this coin stand so far above everything else in the program that they exist in a category entirely their own. The year 2000 was the third year of the State Quarters program, and Maryland was the seventh state to be honored in the sequence. And by that point, the program had become a genuine cultural phenomenon. School children were collecting them. Grandparents were saving them in special folders. Banks were fielding calls from customers asking specifically for new state quarter rolls. And the Philadelphia Mint was producing Maryland quarters at a scale that pushed every piece of machinery and every quality control protocol to its operational limits. It was in this environment of maximum production volume and maximum institutional pressure that something happened on one of the Philadelphia Mint's coin presses that defies easy explanation. A failure so complex, so multi-layered, and so complete that the error coin it produced is unlike anything else documented in American numismatic history. The error type at the heart of the most valuable 2000p Maryland quarters is what specialists have classified as a full obverse brockage combined with a dramatic clash die. Two separate, simultaneous catastrophic failures of the minting process occurring on the same coin in the same moment. The full obverse brockage means that the George Washington portrait is inked, sunken, and mirror reversed into the reverse of the coin, so that when you look at the back of this quarter you see not the Maryland State House, but an eerie, backwards, recessed impression of Washington's face staring back at you from where the dome should be. A ghostly reversal that makes the coin look like something from a fever dream about American history. And layered on top of that brockage, the clash die error means that the obverse and reverse dies made contact with each other without a planchet between them at some point during the production run, transferring design elements from one die to the other and creating a ghostly outline of the State House dome visible within Washington's portrait on the obverse. So you have Washington's face haunted by the faint ghost of the Maryland State House, and the Maryland State House replaced entirely by a mirror image of Washington's face, and both of these impossibilities occurring on the same single coin. When numismatists first authenticated specimens exhibiting both errors simultaneously, the reaction in the professional community was one of almost speechless astonishment. Senior graders who had spent careers examining error coins stated publicly that they had never encountered anything comparable, that the combination of errors was theoretically possible but had been considered practically impossible, and that the condition of the finest known specimens, graded at levels that placed them among the most pristine modern coins ever certified, elevated the entire situation from remarkable to genuinely historic. The discovery stories surrounding the finest known 2000p Maryland error quarters are the kind of stories that remind you why coin collecting captures people so completely and so permanently. There are accounts of a Baltimore schoolteacher who received one of these quarters as change at a grocery store in the early 2000s, thought the coin looked strange, tucked it into a separate pocket, and carried it around for months before showing it to a coin dealer friend who recognized immediately that she was holding something extraordinary. There are accounts of coin roll hunters who searched through hundreds of Maryland quarter rolls over the years, driven by rumors and half-confirmed reports of spectacular errors in the 2000p production run, and who eventually found what they were looking for in the most mundane possible way. A single roll from a small credit union, purchased on an ordinary afternoon, containing a single quarter that changed everything. The 2000p Maryland State Quarter is not just the most valuable coin in today's video. It is a monument to the idea that the greatest treasures in American numismatics are not necessarily locked away in museum vaults or private collections accessible only to the ultra-wealthy. They are out there, in circulation, in coin jars, in old rolls stacked in bank bags, in the pockets of people who have no idea what they are carrying. The Maryland State House Dome, that elegant symbol of democratic governance and historical continuity, appears on this coin. And on the rarest specimens, it has been replaced by the ghost of Washington himself, creating an image that feels less like a minting error and more like history folding back on itself. The father of the nation reclaiming his presence on a coin designed to celebrate one of the states he helped to build. If you have any 2000p Maryland State Quarters in your possession, I am urging you right now, not tomorrow, not later, right now, to examine them under magnification. Check the reverse for any sign of Washington's portrait where the State House dome should be. Check the obverse for any ghostly architectural outline within Washington's portrait. Check the weight against the standard 5.67 grams that a normal clad quarter should register, because the coin that rewrites your entire financial future might be sitting in your change jar waiting for the moment you finally look closely enough to see it. Thank you from the absolute bottom of my heart for staying with me through every single coin in today's video. You are exactly the kind of viewer that makes this channel worth building. And if today's video opened your eyes to the extraordinary hidden world of rare coin values, please hit that like button right now. Subscribe to Coin Nexa Vault so you never miss another reveal like this one. Share this video with every coin collector and curious person you know, and drop a comment below, telling me which coin shocked you the most today, because I read every single one, and your story might just be the one that inspires the next video. The fortune is out there. Go find it.